Hi everyone, Tom was here, back at it with a follow-up, I guess you could say, to the last video. When I went to Bell Vernon this past Saturday and met with the owner of Remixxd by Steel City Galleries, Don Spagnolo, he was kind enough to give me his time and take me around the store to show off the unbelievable amount of stuff that they had there. But also, he told me how this whole story came together, how he got into collectibles, how kind of the origin story, if you will. And I was very fascinated, and I kept the camera rolling while he was telling me the story, because I figured I would feature it in a future video. But the best way to get it to work is to do almost like a interview series, I guess you could say, even though I don't really interview people. It's more Don telling his story of how he got to this point, with, some mild interjections by me. But no, it's a fascinating story, and I did want to share it on the channel. And because he was so kind to give me his time, because I wanted to feature the store, but also I wanted to feature the man behind the store. So, included here is the story of Don Spagnolo, how he started in collectibles, how he, turned it into this store, and all the, trials and tribulations it took to get there. And I thought it was a fascinating story. So I'm included as a, I guess you could say, Tom Was Here interview series, even though there's not a lot of interviewing done by me. It's Don's story. Let's meet the man behind Remixxd at Steel City Galleries, the owner, Don Spagnolo, and listen to his story on Tom Was Here.
Hey, how do you like this? I'm Dan Israel, and you're watching Tom Was Here.
Okay, well, we have to start with this one here.
Oh, the man, the myth.
This is the one that started it all.
Really? Stan Lee?
Is, 1983, it's dated.
The year of my birth.
Stan was coming to a comic convention in Pittsburgh, and this was when comic conventions were a bunch of guys with boxes of comic books, and there was none
of the fanfare was.
It was just comic books. So I knew Stan's voice from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. He was the narrator. So when I heard he was coming to Pittsburgh, I mean, when I was 6 years old, and I couldn't believe it. So, of course, as it worked out, I got tonsillitis, and I was in the hospital. Of course. And Stanley was in Pittsburgh. So I must have hounded my mother. So she finally wrote a letter to Marvel and said, is there anything you can do to pacify my kid? Because he's driving me nuts about missing Stanley. Right. So, months went by, and one day there's an envelope shows up, and it's got Marvel, and months to a kid that's 6, it was probably felt like 20 years. Right. So this package shows up, and there's autographs from Stan Lee, dated 83. Awesome. And, the letters, and, he sent some comic books. Wow. And that was, I consider that my first autograph. Sure. That made me a Stan Lee fan for life, a Marvel fan for life, a Spider-Man fan for life. Understandably. So that would explain some of the decor here. For sure. Here's a Jack Kirby, you got to have Jack Kirby with Stan Lee. But of course. You got the canvas classic Spider-Man. Yeah, that one just popped. I don't know the colors on that one. It's awesome. Joe Namath, I just think he would have been. I could not imagine Joe Namath playing in the internet era. I think he would have made the internet explode every single day. I mean, some of the players they said talk about diva behavior. I mean, this dude was the fur coat. He'll put today's guys to shame. This guy here, Bill Heinzman, Zombie #1, and also was my mom's cousin. Oh, nice. Which I did not realize till later in life. Very cool. And so he passed away a few years ago, but that is from Bill Heinzman. These are all personal things. Yep. My grandma, when I was a kid, saw Franco Harris somewhere. She got his autograph for me.
Nice.
I'm proud to say, according to Franco, I'm his #1 fan.
Yeah,
So
yeah. You look, you
those are the
take that.
official rankings.
He wrote it. He wrote it, and
That's
therefore,
his signature.
yeah.
Adam West, that's
of
a
course.
classic one. Larry Bird.
Larry Legend, of
Here's the
course.
story with that one.
Yeah.
We did, Steiner did, we had a deal with them about 20 years ago
Mm-hmm.
that we were doing limited editions with all the bells and whistles here.
Yep.
And so this was the first limited edition we did with them, and this is #1.
I see that.
It says
1 of
art
33.
exclusive. So
Nice.
we went on to do other ones. We did Muhammad Ali, we did Cal Ripken, we did Ken Griffey Jr. But that's
Yeah.
always, you know, I don't have any of the other ones left, but that I saved that. That's the first
Absolutely.
one. The Maddox is Greg Maddox. I played baseball through college, and I was not the biggest guy, but
Yeah.
Greg Maddox was always like my favorite player because
For sure.
he was like kind of my size. And
Right. He made it. He made it
you know,
happen.
He was kind of nerdy and wore glasses when he
Yeah.
wasn't pitching, and it was like, you know, I just always I named my dog Maddox. This is
Nice.
my late Doberman Maddox.
Very cool.
He was named after Greg Maddox because I always loved watching Greg Maddox. He was just so awesome.
And so when things come in here that you've determined that you have a personal interest to you, they find their way
That's
into
it.
the office here. So I
The
guess
stuff on this,
see,
on this area.
we share the same.
The Pittsburgh Bulls shaving.
Yeah,
kit
but
from
of
lacrosse,
course-
the backstory, origin story here.
Mm-hmm.
But my business in sports memorabilia started literally across the street.
Oh,
Our family owned the Giant Eagle that was across the street, and actually, here's my business card. This is a picture of a young Donald.
yes.
From the Giant Eagle.
Mm-hmm.
So we did an expansion in 1991,
Okay.
and we added a video department,
Nice.
and they
the
put
Eagle,
in these
the Eagle
video, yeah.
yes, but of
So
course.
they put showcases in to sell videos, and Giant Eagle is not a place where people usually bought videos.
No.
So I saw these showcases in 1991. You know, we're at the peak of mass production baseball cards
Yes.
and just card mania. And I said to my dad, I was 14, and
Yeah.
I said, we should sell baseball cards out of these showcases. And that got a hard no. Like, the hardest no.
You're right.
So, you know, I kept saying kids could bring their parents to the store,
Absolutely.
and you know, it could be something that you know, maybe we'd make some money off. Of it.
Right.
You know, it could be something else we could carry out of these showcases
Sure.
that we don't really, you know, you don't make anything out of these showcases.
Right.
And he said, well, let's see, you're 14, so that's no. You know, when would you work here?
Right.
When, you know, like all these, you don't know anything about business. Like, he had a
Right.
million reasons not to do it.
Sure.
So I said, well, the video department people can work there during the day. I'll come after school. I'll work on the weekends. I'll work, you know, whenever I can.
Yeah.
Start with these showcases.
Right.
And no. So one day, a Giant Eagle engineer comes in and he said, you know, I wish they'd quit putting these showcases in because we just don't sell the amount of videos that they're useless.
Right.
So my dad said, well, I have the perfect idea. So, surprise, surprise, he said, you got your chance.
Nice.
You're going to have this, and there's a little wall over here. So we got hooked up with, I mean, distribution back then was through like magazine companies and candy companies.
Right.
So it was completely weird.
Yeah.
But so we got a distributor that I think they were already selling stuff in the store anyway.
Nice.
So we started. You know, I got my start there.
Yeah.
And you
And
know,
they did it do well in the store?
it did well.
Nice.
And I went to college. I stayed at Washington, PA, W&J, and
Nice.
that was because you know that was 4 years into the project that you know it had started to. You know, like I said, I worked there all the time, and that was at the peak of cards.
Right.
So, you know, while I was there, that's when eBay came along.
Yes.
So that was the old game changer because I would get that allowed me to work remotely.
Yeah.
So I could come in, now that I had school and I was on the baseball team, like now we're juggling things, and the business is getting busier. So I would bring boxes of cards to my dorm room, scan them, put them on eBay. The people would send money to my student mailbox.
Nice.
Which, when you're getting mail like this from China and Australia and Italy and Germany.
Did they have some questions?
They're like, what are you doing? I'm not a famous person, so why am I getting all this mail?
Right.
So, I would make runs to the Washington Post office and
nice.
Like it was like a satellite office.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, we ended up taking out the video department altogether, and it was called Spagnolo's Collector's Corner.
Nice, and just
and if
in
you
a corner
look behind
there.
us, that is the marquee.
Oh yeah, there it is. Very
The
cool.
whole corner of the store was, it was basically like a scaled down version of this. We had by that point we were into Pokemon. Beanie Babies were huge in '99, so we had a custom showcase with literally every Beanie Baby, other than like the $1,000 ones. Like we went up to like $200 or $300.
Wow.
So we had everyone. Like if you notice a theme about me, it's like once we get into something, we dive all the way in. So like we had unopened boxes of cards.
Yeah.
So we didn't just have what just came out. If we had baseball, we had 89, 88, 87,
right,
86,
every series.
Back to, the 78s. And if we had
brand.
Pokemon, we had, this series, everyone going, So in 2001, they sold the store, and that meant I was homeless.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I said, well, this was primarily sports cards that were small.
Yeah.
I'll do it out of my house.
Okay.
And that lasted a couple years, and early 2000s the card market was kind of on life support.
Yeah.
So not a good time.
Not great.
Rocky years, I start moving into autographs.
Yeah.
So if you remember, I said, oh, we've been having JSA here since 2008.
Yeah.
Well, they were at the Pittsburgh convention,
Mm-hmm.
and I had started gathering some autographs, and I they were still in their infancy.
Yeah.
And I said, could I give you guys some autographs to authenticate? And that was the first time that I worked with JSA.
Yeah.
And they said, we can come to your place, and I had no place
right. Yeah. Let's go.
So I said, well, we're getting closer to like doing autographs. Now you're talking about framing stuff, bubble wrapping, and that kind of thing. And it was like,
now it's an operation.
Now it's time to move into an office.
Right.
So that's when I moved into a little, they call it an incubator building in Menneson.
Okay.
And that was my first office.
Yeah.
And it was not very big.
Right.
But it was an office.
Right.
And I had one employee, and it was the two of us. And so we got this JSA thing. So JSA had a place to come. So they'd come every time they're in Pittsburgh. They'd say, a couple times a year they'd stop by. And, so we had a relationship with them. So because of that, we got a message one day that sportsmemorabilia.com was interested, which is now part of Fanatics.
Okay.
So that was, they said, we see you work with JSA. You got a lot of nice stuff. We'd like you to be a vendor for us.
Nice.
So that was a big deal.
For sure.
So probably a year later, Amazon sends us a message.
Wow.
And said, your inventory, not nice inventory. You got this JSA stuff. Would you like, this is going to be a gated category. Would you like to come on board with Amazon?
Sure.
So, now we got Amazon, we got sports memorabilia, we're bringing more stuff in.
Great.
So we're saying we're outgrowing this office.
Yes.
So we moved to 2014, we moved to a old courthouse in Bell Vernon.
Nice.
That still had a jail cell in the back.
You should have stayed.
My kids loved it. They loved the jail cell.
Yeah.
And There's plenty of pictures of them when they were little in the jail cell.
Nice.
That's where we decided, like, what are we going to do with this jail cell?
Right.
And there was a little bathroom in there for the person who was in jail. And no one ever would go back there. They're
Of
like,
course.
we're not going to go. So we had this, and I said, well, this will be where we put all the high-ticket stuff. So,
Nice.
that was like a security area. So that's what we did with the jail cell.
Nice.
But we were there a few years, and by this point now, we've had like a solid decade of buying autographs.
Yeah.
So, like I said, once I dive in, I dive all the way in.
For sure.
So we had autographs of like everybody you could think of.
Right.
I mean, sports, politics, movies, music. JSA did them. We were at like the ceiling of autographs.
Right.
So I started, we kind of plateaued, I felt.
Yeah. Okay.
And I said, if we want to keep growing, like, we got to start doing some different stuff.
Yeah.
So I started doing some research into, like, getting back into vintage, because we were primarily just doing autographs and, like, the framed advertising.
Okay.
Like, our business.
So you've been doing the framed advertising for a while then.
Probably 10 years.
Okay. Cool.
So, we were primarily doing just frame stuff like that, and autographs, and so we kind of hit the ceiling, and I said, what else can we do? So I started researching, and I saw a lot of interest in toys. And,
Sure.
This was like on the as Comic-Con started getting bigger,
Right.
The pop culture stuff. So I said, why don't we start getting into other categories? And now by this point we had a couple more employees.
Nice.
So we had people doing pictures and people doing filing, and so I started buying some collections of vintage toys and vintage comics.
Yeah.
And I learned more about those. And then
Right.
when you buy a collection, like, a lot of times you get things in it that will you take these records?
Right.
Will you take these glasses?
Sure.
And I'm like, I don't really want to take them, but I'll
Right.
take them
Yeah.
to help you out.
Right.
So we start getting more inventory. So
Yeah.
then I started learning more about toys. I got in contact with a toy distributor about, why don't we start carrying new toys?
Right.
So if you looked at the size of where we were at, it was not a big space.
Right.
Not like what we have now.
Right.
So, when COVID came around, everything was online, and we were
Right.
just getting hammered because, now we had all this stuff,
Yep.
and you couldn't shop anywhere,
Right.
and I was trying to be careful about spacing out employees and all that, but with Amazon, like, you have service metrics you have to meet, like, you got to ship it out in a certain time, and you got to all these things you have to hit.
Right.
So it was like, between the volume of stuff coming in and the volume of stuff going out, I mean, there would be days you literally, like, would have to, like, tiptoe in certain parts of our office, because it was like there was so much going in and out.
Sure.
And I said, like, we have to find a new space. And I looked for a long time, and we made it to what I call the paperwork stage
Right.
at 3 different places. So we could have ended up in Uniontown.
Okay.
We could have ended up in Menneson, in Menneson.
Yeah.
We could have ended up in West Newton.
Okay.
I had like a 30-mile radius.
Right.
Like, okay, we could move, within, because we had no retail, so it was just going to be me and my employees. So
Right.
where would we be comfortable going?
Yeah.
So all the deals fell through.
No.
So I was just, at wit's end.
Right.
And I drove past one day, a couple days after Christmas,
Yeah.
in, I think it was 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw this place, and I had been here one other time, and it was in like the warehouse section.
Yeah.
And I thought, this is like forklift, Sam's Club ceiling
Right.
kind of territory.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what would work for us. Like, I need just like a big open room.
Yes.
That's it. Like that. And they said, well, it was like a Hail Mary. I said, do you guys have anything? I know I've been there before.
Yeah.
But maybe things have changed. So they said, well, we'll take you around. We'll show you around.
Yeah.
So they showed me this room, and, completely, nobody had been here in a long time,
right?
And it needed work.
I'm sure.
And you know, they said we can have it all ready for you in like a month. And I said, well, geez, that would be great. So they worked on it in January. February we moved in. It took 15 U-Hauls,
right?
A solid month.
Yeah.
And we didn't have any of this shelving. That all needed to be done.
Wow.
That was a Herculean task.
I'm sure.
So we finally got in, and I put some pictures up online, and I said, because we didn't have nearly the online following that we did.
Right.
So I said, here, we're just moving in. And keep in mind, this is all during COVID.
Yeah.
So when nobody wants to be in contact with anybody.
Correct.
So I said, we're moving in. This is, and I guess when you see the aisles like that, like, because they were just set up for pulling orders.
Yeah.
So when you see the aisles, people were like, oh, can we shop there? And I said, oh, no, it's not set up for that.
Right.
It's, it's just for sorted our certain way. So, they kept asking, and and I kept telling them no. I said, it's not decorated. It's nothing's priced, and this is how I've done business for 20 years. Why would I mess with it?
Right.
And as we got kind of on the outer stages of COVID, it was funny because we're having Woolies as a guest at YinzerCon.
Yeah.
And when I did their announcement, I said, I took a trip with my family, and it was about a year ago it was right around like St. Patrick's Day, because I remember my kids buying St. Patrick's Day glasses, or shamrock glasses.
Sure.
So I remember the time, and I remember being in stores there that were just buzzing with people, just packed. And people were taking pictures of stuff.
Sure, it's
there's
a different
candy store down there called Grandpa Joe's. That and I was like, if I had a candy store, it would be like this.
Yeah.
Because they have every candy, they have every ice cream, they have every soda, they have toys. It's fantastic.
Yes.
People were taking pictures of the giant, gummy bears or whatever. Like it was like an experience.
Sure.
And then we went to the Strip District meat store, meat packaging store, and they have every meat you can imagine. Like they have buffalo and alligator, and every cut, everything, and it was packed. And then we went into Woolies, and Woolies, it
was like, an experience. It was different.
You got the live fish, and you got the guys making the fish sandwiches, and all the hoopla in there, and people, it was just. And you start seeing this, and you're like, boy, people are shopping. They're really shopping. And I don't know, it's probably middle age. I don't know. You start thinking of long term, like, I said, maybe we could do this.
Sure.
People keep asking, like, why not give people what they want? Look at we have the stuff, but we'd have to do it in a way that, would really be fun for people. Like, I would want to be like one of those Strip District businesses.
Right.
So, this was maybe a year ago.
Right.
So we undertook this job of like building a retail store out of thin air, basically.
Right.
Like none of this stuff was on the walls. This was, if you'd see a picture of it from back then.
Right.
Like it wouldn't even look like. Actually, the place, the size we had was, like we didn't even have all this space.
Right.
So like we basically had to expand to add this space, and the reception has been, beyond my wildest dreams.
I'm sure. Now I will say, like, my mom was the first person to put me on to you guys because of your social media stuff. You're doing really good on social media, posting stuff all the time and just putting stuff out there. And so it's found its following that way. I've noticed on places like Facebook, Instagram, and stuff like that you actually have, as you get stuff in, like you were showing off the Peterson helmet and the WWE belt and all the stuff that you're getting in, and people will respond to that and they'll share it with people like it was shared with me. So you're doing a great job here. What's going on? So it's definitely, the sky's the limit as far as what you guys are building here. It's incredible.
I mean, thank you. I really appreciate that, because we, you know, in my whole staff, we throw everything we have.
Yeah.
You know, like this is like, I mean, I always say my number one job is being a dad and a husband, and like this is that's my number one job. Like that's my two things. Is like my family and my business.
Right.
Like that's my business is like my other child.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah. Nice. Oh, so there's the original. This was the one that when you were in the Giant Eagle.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's
very cool.
That's actual proof of.
Yes, proof that it exists.
But you know, when you're in the moment, like I don't know, sometimes you don't think to save and take as many pictures. As, now people do, of course.
Right.
In the 90s, you know, not so much, but you know, so I don't have as many pictures as I wish, but you know, that was where it all started. But
well, I mean, you make a good point because like early on, I didn't ever take pictures or video or anything of any of the stuff I did. And then I was like, I have two excuses. One, it gets me off the couch, of which I would just sit on the couch for a while. And two, when my son turns into a teenager like he is now, and he goes, you don't ever take me anywhere. I'm like, nope. Here.
Yeah,
here's the evidence of all the places that you went.
Here's a whole YouTube channel.
Exactly right. Here's a categorized list of videos.
You want to see what you did this day?
Yeah, and he's like, the greatest thing I had was hills. It was a beautiful day of Fantastic Sam's Hills, and then I would go to the Greater Pittsburgh Drive-In and see a double bill. That was my growing up. Now, don't get me wrong, fantastic. I would go back there in a second.
Yeah.
I would go back in a second. But yeah, it's I mean, just the amount of stuff that you got here is absolutely insane. I just started collecting autographs a few years back. In the pandemic. It was a pandemic thing. I had a couple. Like I had once Burt Reynolds came to Steel City Con, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a Longest Yard and Mean Machine jersey and get him to sign it, and I had that up. But beyond that, didn't have hardly anything. And I was like, I'm gonna start collecting autographs during the pandemic. That was my pandemic. Everybody had their pandemic hobby, and that was mine. And so this world of which these collectibles and autographs and things that I both put on the channel and just grown over the years, you built a mecca, a utopia to this very existence here. So it's absolutely incredible what you put together.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the autograph business, I've seen it firsthand change. And I think it was because of the pandemic primarily. And I think it was that these actors were not working. Right. And, you know, they started, you know, when you're not working, there's no money coming in. I mean, they got residuals, of course. Sure. Not everybody has the same residuals. Right. So, you know, you started seeing, like, you know, some of these people doing signings, like, as somebody who tries to get every, you know, like I literally have a list of people like, oh, we're low on this guy, we need to get, you know, like I'll try and find something to him. Like I saw some of these names like, wow, they're doing a private signing with this guy, and you know, it's like it just kind of snowballed. Sure. That, you know, now they're doing signings with Clint Eastwood. I mean,
like, I saw that. I saw that the other day. I was like, wow.
Like, am I hallucinating? Like, is this really happening? Like, I mean, the names like Stallone, De Niro.
Stallone did a bunch.
You know, all these Marvel guys. Yep. Like this is not normal. Like
no.
This is a different. And I know there's a price to pay. Yeah. So it's. I think it has pros and cons. Like the pro is that yes, you're getting authentic autographs on whatever items. Sure. You know you want. Right. Now. Some people don't think of this part of it. I'm not trying to be difficult, but I look at things from a different from the retailer standpoint of if you only have 100 autographs available of this guy, right, and now he's signing 1,000, right, you know, even regardless of what the price is, like if this guy never signed autographs, and now here comes, you know. And then next year, here comes even more. Like, that's going to cause some shifts in...
It does water it down a little bit. Because you thought you had one of the exclusive ones. Like, I have a few Steelers helmets, and I have Troy Polamalu. And Troy Polamalu didn't sign... I mean, he signed the occasional training camp one or something, but he didn't sign a ton. Now he signs constantly. Yeah, every week they're announcing another signing. And I'm like, that's great. Don't get me wrong, it's my favorite Steelers player of all time. I have no problem having that, but it's just like you can see, like, should I get in a pinch, the value that has dipped, that, you know.
I mean, I know that there's a price and they can keep it at a certain level, so that's, I mean, you kind of have to hold the value, but like, just, I guess the chase part of it for me was always like, okay, can you get, like I was showing you the Kramer.
Yeah.
Like, okay, can you get a real Kramer?
Yeah.
Like, and get it authenticated?
Sure.
You know, like, you could go get some crappy one that somebody says he signed. Can you find a real one? You know, like, like that was always, like, to me, the, like, kind of the fun of the chase.
Yeah.
Was that these guys didn't do signings, so you couldn't just jump on. And like I said, I'm a pre-internet collector.
Yes.
So, like, I remember the days when, you know, it was Shaq's rookie and you know, you had to be lucky enough to find a store that had 1992 Upper Deck or something like that, or Stadium Club.
Yeah.
You couldn't just pick up your phone and say, "Oh, I'll take 2 boxes and a Beam Team, you know, PSA 9." I mean, it was like so to me, like, but that's society in general is, you know, you can have anything anytime.
Right.
You know, like, so a lot of that chase mentality is kind of out the window anyway. But
so now it's of a position where if there's someone that, you know, unfortunately did pass away, or, you know, it's just a tougher get, that's the new chase thing. It's like, because you know there's a limit of how many things that are out there. Like, I've been scouring the internet for George Carlin. Some George Carlin signed item, an album or whatever. It's not an easy find.
The day that somebody passes, it's such a weird part of this job. But like, you know, sometimes this is even crazier. Like, sometimes there'll be somebody that we have like multiples of that hasn't sold in a while. Right. Like, then maybe they're older. Yeah. And I'll think, like, I'll see sold, and I'm like, I'll bet they died.
Yep.
And overnight or something. Yep. And you know, I haven't heard the news yet. Right. And sure enough, it'll be like, this person died. And you know, it's one of the weird parts. Like, now, some people, they want it before the price goes up. Right. You know. Sure. Some people literally, there's pure heart. They want to have something to remember their favorite actor.
The right customer,
you know,
yes.
Like, oh my goodness, you know, it would be nice if I get the autograph while, you know, today they died. Before the price goes up, let me buy it. Yeah. So there's this rush to, you know, everybody jumps, and then, you know, what happens is the market goes up. Right. I mean, Betty White used to be a $5 or $10 autograph. Right. She signed
so many. Yeah.
You know, and Mr. Rogers, another one. Like, he's gone way up.
Right.
I used to get Mr. Rogers constantly for $10. He always dated him. Yeah. You know, like, you could. I mean, you know, a lot of times, most of them have inscriptions on them. Yep. But, you know, he used to be easy. Now he got, you know, especially since the movie, I was like, he got way tougher. But, you know, there's, you know, for people like that completely missed the signing, like, you know, like Roberto Clemente. Oh, you know, there's that's a limited market. Yep. And, you know, a lot of them are in collections. They're never going to see the light of day. Yep. You know, and you'd be surprised at how hard some of these, you know, JFK. Yeah. You know, there's a lot of secretarials and absolutely, you know, people be like, oh, that's, you know, here's JFK on a letter, but you know, he didn't really sign. You know, it all looks all right, but, you know, then you know, it's like his secretary signed it. Auto pens and all that jazz. So,
it's so I've seen stuff as crazy as like George Washington on a Beckett slab, or you know, a PSA DNA slab, or Alexander Hamilton, and some of these historic, and you're like, wow, like, that's unreal that I opened a box of trading cards on the channel a couple different times where they have a cut word from a document that was written by, you know, whoever. Like, I think I got like a James K. Polk, and you're like, oh, this one word but it's like it's from
Oh,
a
yeah.
document from like the 1800s. Like that's real tangible history you're holding there. It's unreal that is something that, you know, imagine if you had the whole document, or
Yeah.
imagine if you had just like a cut like George Washington autograph or Abraham Lincoln or some of these people that have been, you know, it's like, and that's now business. That's now people that are selling these things. Somehow they acquired them. Who knows how they acquired them, but they have them, they slabbed them, and they're like 10 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, depending on how giant the signature is and how rare it is and how good it looks now.
I'd say the oldest one we had, this is wild, we had something that was like a document signed by Francis Scott Key.
yeah. And that's incredible.
You know what? I think actually Topps might have bought it.
Oh, understandable.
Which,
yeah.
Actually, they bought something the other day. They bought
Really?
a piece off of me, and I'm sure they're going to take it apart and use the autograph.
They cut it into little cards, and then they're
put something else. But,
yeah.
But you know, they can't get the, you know.
They can get it, right?
But it's funny you say George Carlin.
Yeah.
Because I had just recently the ultimate George Carlin. I don't know if
Really?
you saw it.
No.
It was a letter that he wrote to a fan. It was to like an autographed publication. It's
Yeah.
probably still on our Instagram or something
Yeah.
somewhere. And he said, "Could you please stop publishing this address for my fan mail?
Oh.
Because it's a private residence.
Right.
If you send it to George Carlin Productions or something,
Yeah.
like, you know, I'll sign for my fans, you know, whatever they want.
Sure.
But would you please stop using this address? You know, sign George Carlin."
Yeah.
And it was just a cool, nice way. Well, not threatening. Just
Yeah.
like, you know, yeah, I'll sign. Just do me a favor, you know.
Right.
And there was a guy here the other day, and we were working on a massive deal of stuff.
Yeah.
And he said, "Boy, I saw that George Carlin letter you had." He said,
Yeah.
"That's something."
Something
I
else.
said, "It sure is."
Yeah.
And
Absolutely incredible.
So unfortunately, you missed the George Carlin by about a week. But,
Man, that's a bummer.
as I say, you never know what's going to come
Right.
next. But
Well, that'll do it. Talking with Don and you know, him giving me the amount of time that he did to, you know, he clearly is passionate about his business and about collecting and about collectors in general. Obviously his ties to the Bell Vernon area, his ties to that local area are very important to him. And I met his family there, and you know, it's clearly a family business, somewhere where everybody kind of plays a part in making this go. But just the things that he is able to then build into from this business. The reason why I even learned about his business is because of his smart use of social media, of putting things out there and making events kind of every other weekend or sometimes every weekend, as putting, you know, different, maybe getting eyeballs that you would not normally get eyeballs on with a just regular old collector store, by reaching out to the masses, by showcasing different things, by having different events to put on that really, you know, starts attracting a following. And then it's more than a collector store. Obviously, that is the main hook of it. Social media does play a big factor, and the more you can get your name out there, or your business name out there, you know, in some cases, you're going to find the audience, even if you're not directing it directly towards that audience, you know, just through word of mouth and through, you know, different ways that social media can meet your client base is incredible. And we didn't even get into YinzerCon. Don put together, coming up April 15th, Saturday, April 15th, he's putting together YinzerCon at the store, a celebration of all things Pittsburgh, and he's put in, you know, quite a lineup. Anyone from Blake Hinson, who's the leading scorer for Pitt basketball. You know, he's Steely McBeam. You got the Shop and Save lady. You got Doran Dickerson. People from the news, different, you know, meteorologists, reporters, different restaurants are attending. Other types of, you know, just a huge event that he's kind of cobbled together here. And man, I mean, and you know, like I said, not everybody that's going to go to this is going to go there like, oh, this is a collector store, and you know, I'm going there for collectibles. They're going there to, you know, celebrate their Yinzerdom or celebrate Pittsburgh. So just getting those people in the store is a, you know, a stroke of genius in that regard, where you're going to have the more people there that, you know, then through seeing videos, seeing pictures, seeing things like this, people go, oh man, I want to go to the next one, or I want to go to a future event that they do there, and that's how you build a following. So Don's putting together something really genius here, and we didn't even get into it. We didn't even scratch the surface. Actually, I should also announce that I myself am attending YinzerCon and will be there on April 15th. So if you see this video, or if you're a big fan of the channel, make sure to stop and say hi. But that'll do it. My interview. I got to work on my interview skills, as in, you know, asking a couple questions. But my interview with Don Spagnolo, the owner, proprietor of Remixxd by Steel City Galleries. Hope you liked it. Let me know in the comments down below. Guys, thanks so much for watching. If you are new here, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Like, support me on Patreon like John Bailey did. You can do so. Link is in the description below. If you'd like to buy a t-shirt, a Tomwashere t-shirt, you can do so at Spreadshirt, as well as links to my eBay store, Facebook page, Instagram, TikTok, and the Pennsylvania Autograph Collectors Association. Links are in the description below. Like I said, YinzerCon in a few weeks. Couple other, hopefully trying to get to a couple other things before that. So until the next video, I will see you soon. But until then, bye everyone.